Hey guys, we have here an early 1970s vintage scuba diving compressor that a friend of mine recently picked up for a pretty reasonable price. He's asked me to take a look at it and see what it's going to take to get it up and running and what it's going to take to make it a functional high pressure compressor. Thanks for stopping by. Let's have some fun checking this thing out. What we've got here is a 3 horsepower Briggs & Stratton flathead motor. Through a belt, it's running a multi-stage compressor. Looks to me like it's 3-stage intake filtration, output filtration. This compressor head is capable of producing breathing air. I'm guessing going to be about 3,000 psi, capable of refilling scuba tanks. As many longtime viewers might know, I've picked up my scuba diving certificate in the last couple of years, and this will make a great addition to our dive equipment. First things first, we'll check and see whether it is seized, and it is not. The engine turns over. Nice. Recoil, a little stiff, not too bad. The oil cap is here. Let's pop the that cap off and see what we have in there in the way of oil. The oil is right up at the top of this little spigot. That's a little bit surprising, and kind of smells a little bit like gas, but again, this motor hasn't run in a number of years, so hard to say whether that's gas or just the smell of the oil. The carburetor is up under here. That's the choke. I don't imagine that we've had fuel running down into the carburetor, but anything's possible. And one problem with this style of engine is it doesn't have a really great kill switch. You get this metal tab that just goes against the spark plug lead and shorts things out. And if you're not careful, quite often you can get a nasty jolt off of that. That foam filter is not the prettiest in the world. I think we're probably going to want to see about replacing that if we can. Let me grab a spark plug wrench. We'll pull this spark plug out, put a little bit of lubricant down the piston hole, and that way we're not going to be running cast iron rings up and down dry cast iron sleeves. Yeah, almost looks like there's a little bit of rust on the tip of that spark plug. That's not a great indicator. We'll throw a little bit of penetrating oil in on this. Now, one of the things that we're going to have to be careful of is that this is a flathead engine, and the piston is going to be kind of back a little bit, not directly underneath the spark plug hole. The valves for the intake and for the exhaust are going to be right underneath the spark plug hole, and the piston is going to be back away from that a little bit. Given this is only a 3.5 horse, though, it's probably not a very big piston. There's some good schmoo into the cylinder. I'm going to take that over to the wire wheel and just give it a little bit of a cleanup, I think. I'll be right back. Not new by any means, but certainly a lot cleaner than it was. I'll give it a little drink of parts cleaner, and we'll call that good enough, I think, at least for testing purposes. Spark plug's back installed. We've got our spark lead just right beside the spark plug. We'll give this a pull over and see if we've got any spark. Ooh, that looks like a pretty nice spark to me. We've got an engine that turns over fairly decent. It's got oil in it, and it appears to have spark. I think I'd like to try and fire this up. However, I don't know that I want to be turning the compressor over with the engine just yet. I think what I'm going to do is take this belt guard off and see what we got to do to pull that belt off. Get this engine up and running properly, make sure that everything's happy on that end. Then we'll put the belt back on and get the compressor fired up. There's a few things that I'm going to need to get this compressor fully functional. It's going to need an oil change, put some fresh, proper breathing air compressor oil in it. I have a part container here, but really there's not enough in here to change the oil on the compressor. It's a good example of the stuff that I need to get though. In here is the output filter, and that will definitely need to be changed because this unit hasn't run, I don't think, since the mid 1980s. Here we have our intake filter, and our external air hose fits on here. Got all that in a bag. Bunch more parts and stuff in here. Before we're ready to run the compressor, let's get this belt off of here, get the motor up and running, and make sure that everything's going to be happy there. It appears that the compressor head itself is metric. That's odd. Must have been of European origin, I'm guessing. I can pretty much guarantee that the Briggs motor, however, is not going to be metric. We'll finish giving that a clean up when we go to the reassembly, but that takes the first layer off. Now we need to get the belt off. That fell off fairly easily. That belt is, yeah, not in the greatest of condition. Try and figure out what it is. Not seeing any numbers on it. Definitely needs replacing though. We'll throw the socket wrench underneath the end of that to keep the base of the engine relatively level. You want to do that when you're dealing with splash oil engines, because having the proper oil level is critical for oiling, because there's a little dipper that comes off the crankshaft and scoops up oil and sprays it all over the inside of the engine. And if we don't have it level, then we're not guaranteed that we're getting the right amount of oil. Before we get too carried away, let's see what kind of shape the fuel tank is in. And I am not seeing anything in there. Let me grab a flashlight and I'll point the camera down and hopefully you guys can see what's going on. I don't know how well you guys can see that, but it sure looks pretty well spotless in there to me. This thing was obviously stored with absolutely no fuel in that tank. What I'm going to use to try and fire this up is some pre-mixed stabilized fuel. This is available from any place they sell lawn equipment and power sports. This flavor is mixed 50-to-1. Not that this engine requires mixed fuel, but it's always good to put a little bit in. Kind of gives some lubrication around the valves, etc. when we first try to fire it up. We'll give it a little drink down the carburetor. Ignition is in the on position, and let's see what happens. Oh, that's interesting. Well, the spark plug is definitely wet. Smells like this fancy fuel. Now we know we're getting spark from the coil. Maybe we're not getting something from the spark plug. You guys probably can't see that at that angle. Oh, we got nice bright spark. Give it a little drink right down the yap and see what happens. Ho. Give her another little drink right down the spark plug hole. This thing's kind of acting almost like it's hit and miss on the spark. You know, anytime I pull the lead off, it looks like it's working okay, but when you actually try and run it, the spark tester shows up good. This thing's popping off, but it's not consistently firing. Even with the fuel in the cylinder, you would think it should pop, 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 burn off the fuel, and it's not. It's just giving us the occasional fire. I'm wondering if we're not making much in the way of compression. I've got the compression tester on here. We'll pull it over. The throttle is open as it'll go, and well, that would definitely explain why we're having such a hard time getting this thing to run. I'm going to take a wild guess that we've got a valve that's stuck open, and we're not getting any compression. I'm not beyond tearing into it to see if we can get this to go. You know, worst case, we could pull the carburetor, exhaust, everything off of there, get into the cam and lifters down under here, and see if we can get it to break loose. But before I get carried away doing that, trying to spend a bunch of money firing this old engine up, I'm thinking I'm going to look at Harbor Freight and see what a new Predator, I forget what the size is, 185 or 165 or something. They're small, single cylinder, 4-stroke engine. I'm going to see what that's worth. It may not be worth trying to mess with this old Briggs, trying to resurrect it. And then we'd have a newer style overhead valve, probably more fuel efficient, more reliable, all those wonderful things. So I think we're going to end the video here. I'm going to see how much a new engine is worth, and if it is cost prohibitive, then we'll look at digging into this a little bit further. Heck, we might dig into this one a little bit further just for the fun of it. Anyways, thanks a lot for stopping by. Greatly appreciate you taking the time to watch the video. If you've got this far, can you throw me one of those thumb up things and like and subscribe? Trying to get up over 1,000 subscribers so I can monetize videos, and I'm kind of stuck in the mid-6s. So any help you could give me with that would be greatly appreciated. Share it with your friends, share it with your parents, share it with the guy you don't like at work. I don't care, as long as he's willing to subscribe. That's all that matters. Thanks a lot. We'll catch you in the next mess.